Kendrick Lamar almost didn't make it as a rapper.
You gotta survive. Everybody's not fortunate enough to be a doctor or a lawyer.
The industry, real niggas is dying to get in.
Rapper and actor Tupac Shakur is dead at the age of 25.
He's the greatest rapper alive.
Oh, it's Kendrick. Easy.
Kendrick Lamar is a real motherfucking artist.
Nigga, you got the torch, nigga, you better run with it.
This is Kendrick Lamar before the label. Kendrick had a rough childhood, but to really understand his story, we have to go back to before he was even born. You see, his parents grew up in Chicago completely surrounded by violence.
We don't give a fuck about innocent people. We don't know them, you dig what I'm saying?
His father was in a gang, and the neighborhood was basically a war zone. At the top of their apartment complex, people would throw glass bottles down to the sidewalk, and sometimes they'd hit children. His parents were like, you know what, maybe this isn't the best place to live. There's no future here. If we want to start a family, this is definitely not the place. So they took the last $500 that they had and left for Compton, California. Now, life didn't just magically get better. His mother worked at McDonald's while his father slanged drugs at night and chicken during the day at KFC. One afternoon, his father was working at the KFC. The sun was shining, business was slow, but he was still getting paid. What more could you ask for? But then a man rushed in with a gun. Kendrick's dad was at the register with the barrel of the gun pointed straight at him. He panicked. He looked up and said, "Take whatever you want, man. Take some chicken, take anything, take all of it." The gunman looked at him, grabbed only the chicken, and walked out. No money, no bullets fired. Things could have gone south real quick, but instead his father was very much alive. And just a few years later, Kendrick Lamar Duckworth was born. Kendrick was exposed to the harsh reality of growing up in Compton. Gangs ran the city, drinking liquor was like drinking water, and every day a mother would cry because she had just lost her son. And at just 5 years old, Kendrick witnessed his first murder. You see, he was on his way to the gas station to grab some snacks when across the street, someone pulled up on a car in a drive-thru and took someone's life. Kendrick was traumatized. It was the worst childhood memory you could have. Compton was full of darkness and chaos, but at the same time, light and hope. Like when Kendrick was 9 years old, he saw a massive crowd.
My father seen him, went 2 blocks down, got me. By the time he got me, everybody was out there. It was like pandemonium. Put me on his shoulders. And there they was, Dr. Dre and Tupac right there. And I think it was a white Bentley. Yep, they were shooting a video.
From that moment on, Pac became his hero because he wasn't just rapping about fame and money, he was telling stories that Kendrick could relate to. And then just a few months later, Tupac was assassinated.
Tupac saw Mike Tyson pound Bruce Seldon into submission less than 2 minutes into their heavyweight bout. From there, Tupac headed off to the home of Suge Knight, but the caravan of cars from Knight's house never got to the club.
Kendrick was heartbroken. He felt a void because nobody else was making music like Pac, so he naturally gravitated towards the closest thing, which was DMX. Now, Kendrick fell in love with rap, but his dream wasn't to become a rapper, it was to become an NBA player. That was until the 7th grade. One day, his teacher gave the class an assignment, write a poem. Kendrick shrugged it off, he's like, whatever. The next day at school, he realized, damn, I didn't do my homework. And with only 10 minutes before class started, he scribbled something down, he turned it in, and he got an A+. It was that moment that Kendrick realized, I'm actually good at this. So every single night he went home, he began writing raps. His parents thought he was working on homework, but really, he was writing song lyrics. Now, by the time Kendrick got to high school, everybody knew that he could rap. And this is when he met Dave Free, a dude with a rinky-dink home studio. Dave was like, yo, pull up, let's cook something. So he did. And this is when Kendrick recorded his first ever mixtape under the name K-Dot called Hub City Threat. Now, Dave really liked it, and he knew the CEO of a record label called Top Dog Entertainment. He thought, why not bring this to them and see what happens? So he goes to show the CEO his music, and they signed him on the spot, which is crazy, but not as crazy as this. That CEO was Anthony Tiffin, also known as Top, also the guy that ran up on Kendrick's dad at the KFC before he was even born.
Funny how life is, right?
Crazy. Now, Kendrick would go on to join a rap group called Black Hippie with J-Rock, Absol, Schoolboy Q, and dropped a few mixtapes like No Sleep Till NYC and C4, but things didn't really hit the mainstream and he was still broke. He knew something had to change. People knew that he could rap, but nobody knew who he was.
It was just me basically developing myself. I mean, when people heard K-Dot, they was like, yo, the kid is dope. He can rap, but who is he? You know what I mean? That went on for years.
K-Dot was dead. From now on, he was Kendrick Lamar. He went to drop a self-titled mixtape that would tell stories about his life and others around him. For example, Uncle Bobby and Jason Keaton. His Uncle Bobby was the realest person that he knew. A man who had seen the absolute worst of Compton, but still carried himself with pride. He always had a story, a lesson, and a laugh. Now, Jason Keaton knew how the streets worked, but he always made sure Kendrick stayed out of trouble. These guys showed him what survival looked like in Compton, until one day, they didn't. Now, there's gonna be a moment you'll never forget in life. A moment where time stops, your heart's in your stomach, words hit your ears, but your brain refuses to understand them. For Kendrick, this moment was when he lost Uncle Bobby and Jason Keaton to the streets. He was devastated. He would go on to drop The Heart Part 1, where he laid out his purpose for everybody to hear. I do this for the struggle and for those who ain't here. People loved it, and they were starting to catch on to his music, but everything changed when he dropped Overly Dedicated. One song that changed everything was Ignorance is Bliss. You see, somehow Eminem's manager heard it and sent it to Dr. Dre. Dre was impressed, but he didn't sign him yet because he felt like Kendrick still needed to prove himself. And that's when he dropped Section 80, which is a fucking banger. It had ADHD. At this point, Kendrick started to blow up. So much that another man by the name of Jermaine Cole calls Dr. Dre and says, yo, you gotta check out this kid from Compton. He's cold. So Dre picks up the phone and calls Kendrick. Kendrick was at Denny's. He looks at his phone and sees an unknown number. So he's like, man, I ain't gonna answer it. Starts to ring again. So he picks up. He's like, hello? Yo. This is Dr. Dre. Now, Kendrick didn't believe it, so he hung up. Phone rings again. He's like, I don't know who this is, but stop fucking with me. And that's when he realized it was really Dr. Dre. Dre ended up inviting him to the studio, and the first thing he does is throw a beat on and is like, write to this. I'll be back in 15. When he came back, he was beyond impressed. Now, he wouldn't sign him on the spot, but just a few months later, Kendrick performed a show in LA where he was officially passed the West Coast torch by Snoop Dogg, The Game, and Dr. Dre.
Nigga, you got the torch, nigga. You better run with it.
Legendary. And just a few months later, Dre would invite him to the studio again, where he would officially sign him, and that very same day is when they made The Recipe, which is a fucking banger, and shortly after, he dropped Good Kid, Mad City, which is an all-time classic. Now, I can get into so many stories of what happened after the fact up until this point, but this is before the label, and if you guys want an after the label series, drop a comment and let me know. And if you guys enjoyed this video and want to support, you can do that by buying me a coffee with the link down below and leaving me a note of love. Sometimes I need it. It's only us. This is my third time filming this video, so any words of appreciation would go a long way for me. Thank you guys. My name is Mario. We'll see you in the next episode. The Weeknd is dead.
Weeknd, baby. You don't know what's in store.
The Weeknd might have a drug problem.
I want you to say.
I can't really see myself returning to much on this album.
My biggest regret would maybe be not communicating with each other when we had something beautiful going on.
I always told myself if I could be successful coming from where I came from, then I could do anything.
This is The Weeknd before the label.